Hello, welcome to a new edition of the Right Wing Populist Podcast. I am the Right Wing Populist. So today I wanted to mostly talk about the big interview Tucker Carlson released with Ted Cruz that's been, going viral on the internet. First off, this was Tucker at the peak of his powers. It was very impressive. Frankly, it was, I think, the best interview I've seen done with a top public official by any journalist. Not ever, but certainly in a very long time. I remember once Bill O'Reilly did a pretty tough interview with Dick Cheney, believe it or not, about Iraq years after, the catastrophe that was Iraq. But this was just Tucker at his best. And it exposed a couple things. Number one, it exposed that Ted Cruz is a tool. We already kind of knew that just based off 2016 and his inability to, go after Trump with substance. Instead, he tried using all these tricks to get extra delegates by using, these convention technicality rules. He's just always been sort of a slimy guy. And this interview / really debate, but this interview kind of reminded us of that. I mean, I guess apparently in college he was like a debate champ. I've never seen it. I never thought he did particularly well in those debates against Trump in 2016 during those primary debates. And during this interview, he kept doing these stupid fucking, fallbacks whenever he was confronted with good points by Tucker. He did the classic, "Why are you asking so many questions about Israel, bro? Why don't you ask about China? Why don't you ask about Russia? Why are you so obsessed with Israel, bro? Is it because they're Jewish, bro?" He did one of those, this typical, I can't, respond to your substantive criticism of Israel, so I'm going to essentially accuse you of being anti-Semitic. And Tucker, to his great credit, called him out for it. In fact, I will play the clip right now, because it's just embarrassing that Cruz would resort to tactics like this.
You think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics. Now, and you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You said that you were sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to. By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries, hardly an obsession. You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now.
Senator, you're asking the question.
That's me.
You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy? That's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that. And I have...
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not.
Yeah, Ted Cruz is a faggot. I mean, Jesus Christ. What a fucking faggot. Tucker asked to what extent Israel is influencing United States policy, and then Cruz says, "Why are you asking me if the Jews are running the United States?" It has nothing to do with Jews. And this is why it's just not it's just so lazy. It's so lazy. People who defend Israel and AIPAC, they always have to go, "Oh, why do you care? Why are you so obsessed with Jews?" It's like, Israel is a foreign country, okay? Obviously, it's a Jewish state, okay? Now, they make the point all the time, the Israel defenders, that Israel allows people of other faiths to live there peacefully, which is true, seemingly. That seems to be true. So they always make that point. So, there's plenty of non-Jews who live in Israel, but obviously it's the Jewish state. There's no question about that. But just because, again, criticizing Israel does not mean you're criticizing Jews. The type of people, look, are there anti-Semitic people who criticize Israel because of Judaism? Of course. Of course. Those people exist. I would say Nick Fuentes is one of those people, which I've covered extensively in many of my other podcasts. Please check them out. Available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe. So I understand that, but the vast majority of certainly anti-interventionists on the left and right, people like Glenn Greenwald, people like Tucker Carlson, others, people like Jimmy Dore, these people are not criticizing Israel because it's a Jewish state. They're criticizing Israel because of the influence it has on the American government. And the concern is that the influence that it has on the American government is coming at the expense of the American people. That's the concern. The concern isn't, oh, they're Jews. No one gives a shit about Israel being Jewish. I mean, Again, I say that I understand that there are anti-Semitic people like Richard Spencer, people like Nick Fuentes, who are legitimately anti-Israel because of the Jews. Okay, I understand that. But Tucker Carlson is not one of those people. Tucker Carlson has been very pro-Israel for years, as he pointed out during his interview with Ted Cruz. People like Steve Bannon, who's been very critical of Israel lately. He's been pro-Israel in the past. Many of these people who are trying to prevent Trump from going to war with Iran over Israel have been very pro-Israel in the past. People like Robert Barnes, people like Richard Barris, great people, great patriots, who have defended Israel in the past, but are now calling out AIPAC, now calling out Israel, because we're trying to prevent Trump from destroying his presidency. That's the reality. It's nothing to do with them being Jewish. We don't care. I certainly don't care. When I was a kid growing up, two of my closest friends were Jewish. They had family directly from Israel. I have nothing against Jews. I just don't want Israel to be dictating our foreign policy. Particularly, I will admit, when it has to come with a president I have personal affection for, Donald Trump. One of my favorite things about Trump's first presidency was he was the first president in decades to not start a new war since Jimmy Carter. He was the first president. It was an amazing accomplishment. Now, he could have done more. He should have got us out of more of the foreign conflicts other presidents had gotten us into. So he was not perfect by any means when it came to war. But he was, again, the first president not to get us into a new conflict. And that was a great accomplishment. And there were times where people in his first administration did try to pressure him to go to war with Iran, and he resisted. Now he's not resisting for some reason. Is it because Trump's just gotten older and he just doesn't have the wherewithal? Does he think maybe Israel was behind the 2 assassination attempts? That's very conspiratorial, but maybe he thinks that. I don't know. I just don't get why all of a sudden he's just... I mean, look, it is true he's been saying Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, but he's been always resistant to actually starting a new conflict. But now he seems gung-ho to do it. And that was the other thing during this interview that Cruz kept saying, and it's very obvious what's happening here. The neocons are trying to use Trump because they know Trump has such high approval in the Republican base. They're trying to use Trump as political cover to do regime change in Iran. That's obvious. I mean, and the other thing is Ted Cruz, Tucker accused Ted Cruz of being a neocon, and Ted Cruz got defensive. Ted Cruz is obviously a neocon. Like, neocons don't like calling themselves neocons because they know the term is so toxic now after the disaster that was the George W. Bush presidency. But you just listen to the interview with Tucker and Ted Cruz. He's obviously a neocon. Every single position a neocon would have, Ted Cruz has. Okay. He's a neocon. And what the neocons are doing now, they're trying to use Trump as political cover to support regime change in Iran. And one of the ways they are doing it is what Bibi himself did during an interview with Fox News, is say that Iran is trying to kill Trump. And Bibi implied that the 2 assassination attempts were Iran was behind them. Now, Ted Cruz, to his credit, I guess, conceded that those accusations weren't true from Bibi, that he quote-unquote misspoke. I'm not exactly sure how Bibi would have misspoken there. It was very clear what he said, but anyway. But Cruz is defending the claim still that Iran is trying to kill Trump. And Tucker basically called him out beautifully, saying that if you really believe that, you'd be directly advocating that we attack Iran and go to war with Iran. And I'll play the clip here because, again, it exposes the scam that Ted Cruz and the neocons are playing right now.
But I just want to pull that thread because it's so important. I voted for Donald Trump. I campaigned for Donald Trump. He's our president. And we're on the cusp of a war. So if there's evidence that Iran paid hitmen to kill Donald Trump and is currently doing that, where is that? Like, what are you even talking? I've never heard that before. Okay, where is the evidence? Who are these people? Why haven't they been arrested? Why are we not at war with Iran?
That's a great question to ask.
How do you know that that's true?
We know that it's true because we have been told that by the military and our intelligence community for the last 2 years.
We meaning who?
Congress has and the public. I mean, we had multiple testimonies. I can send you testimony.
Do we know the names of the people or where this happened or what they tried to do to kill Trump?
We do not. We have not apprehended an Iranian hitman trying to kill him. We know that Iran is trying to do so.
In the United States?
Yes. And by the way, like Iran...
This just seems like a huge headline, and you're acting like everyone knows this. I didn't know that.
Iran put out a whole video about murdering Trump.
Right, but I've never heard evidence that there are hitmen in the United States. I mean, trying to kill Trump right now, we should have a nationwide dragnet on this, and we should attack Iran immediately if that's true. Don't you think?
No.
But they're trying to assassinate our president?
They have been for 2 years.
They are our enemies. War with them?
Well, we are trying to...
Why don't we just nuke Tehran if they're trying to murder our president? There's nothing that you could do that would be worse for the United States than murdering Trump. And I just don't understand why you're not calling for the use of nuclear weapons against the Ayatollah right now. I'm serious. If you really believe they're going to murder...
The use of nuclear weapons... See,
whatever
part of the problem of...
No, I think Tucker's saying we should use nuclear weapons is, a little bit extra. He's just kind of a silly comment. But Tucker's overall point is obviously correct. If we really believed Iran was trying to assassinate Trump, we'd all, and there was a serious threat of it, we would already be in a direct conflict with Iran. And that's obviously true. So, anyway, I recommend listening to the whole interview. I just played a couple clips that I thought were the most telling part. Obviously, the most viral part of the interview was when, Tucker asked Cruz, if you're calling for regime change, what do you know about the country? Like, what's the population size? And Cruz didn't know anything about the Iranian population. It's just embarrassing. And by the way, the defenders posting these memes about Star Wars, with someone asking Luke Skywalker, what was the population of the Death Star? It's really? First off, the rebels were the terrorists in Star Wars. I mean, that's the kind of the funny part. But putting that aside, it's Star Wars, it's fiction, it's retarded. Okay, the point is that you should know about the population of a country for calling for regime change, which Ted Cruz is. Ted Cruz did say in the interview he wants regime change in Iran. Okay, this is a United States senator who said that one of his main goals for becoming a senator, and one of his main goals to do as senator, was to be the leading defender of Israel. A United States senator said one of the main reasons he became a senator was to be the leading protector and defender of Israel, a foreign country in the Middle East, which he himself recognizes spies on us, including spying on our president, and does not routinely share all the intel that the Mossad gathers. Okay? This is the United States. This is one of our United States senators. It's just gross. And, look, I don't want to shit on Israel, but it's becoming more clear and clear what the whole game here is. The reason why we haven't gotten more information on Jeffrey Epstein is because he almost certainly was working with the Mossad in Israel, and we don't want to release that information because it will make it harder for us to help Israel in its new war with Iran. And the other reason why we haven't heard more information about the 2 assassination attempts against Trump is because the deep state and the administrative state wants to create the impression, like Bibi was trying to do, that Iran was behind those 2 assassination attempts. Okay, it's becoming more and more clear what the game here is, and it's gross. And Unfortunately, it looks like, they're winning the game, because it does look like by the weekend we will have begun striking Iran, the United States, directly, as opposed to just indirectly helping Israel at the moment. So we live in dangerous times. Hopefully Trump comes to his senses the last second and refuses to get us entangled in another Middle Eastern war, but I would say the odds are against it. Anyway, that's it for today. Please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can get your podcasts. It should be available. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye-bye.